I'm so excited about it today because we have got a wonderful guest who is also financially independent, retire early. That she is working towards that, her and her family, and I'm going to let her tell you her story. So please welcome Heather. Hey, Heather.
Thanks, Myra.
Glad to have you. Well, I know y'all think this is a hair commercial because, hey, we both got great hair, but because I'm a hairstylist, so that's a professional opinion, that you have great hair. So I still have that license.
That's awesome.
So that's a professional opinion. You have great hair.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So tell everybody about yourself and what you're doing.
All right. So a little bit about my husband and I. So we are from the West Coast originally, and we both went to school in Utah and got married out there, and then relocated about 4 years ago to Cincinnati because he got a job out here out of college. So that's what brought us to the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And so when we first got here, we both were working corporate downtown. And
traffic.
Yes, traffic.
And it's not fun here. I spent about 30 minutes trying to get across the bridge yesterday.
Yeah. And so we actually, thinking about the full financial freedom, going back to that, just the whole theme that we've tried to have throughout our life is we were both married, right, living corporate life and everything, but I intentionally tried to find a job that would be close to where he was downtown because we wanted to keep our one car. We didn't want to buy a second vehicle.
That.
So
take notes. One car.
Yeah. So we were married for 4 years with one car, and we worked downtown. Wow. And then when we got pregnant with our first son, we kind of started thinking, what are we doing? Because we were both working at least 40 hours a week. Yes. My husband was working closer to 80 hours a week. And so we started thinking a little bit different because we were totally happy. We didn't have any debt. We didn't have any student debt or anything after we graduated. So we were really proud of that.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And then when we bought our first house, that was like our first big investment, right? Mm-hmm. And that was scary. I remember thinking back of like, we just took out a mortgage. That's a lot of debt. But it made sense because we didn't want to just keep paying rent. We wanted to start building wealth. So then when our son was born, I was on maternity leave and working part-time and kind of started thinking, what are we going to do with him? Because we don't have family out here.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't.
That's an expense. That's a huge expense, right?
Yes,
Daycare?
Yeah, very expensive. And so we just kind of started thinking about what our real goals are. We've always had goals of we, wanted to accomplish financial freedom. We didn't want to have to work 80 hours a week the whole time until we're retired at 65, right? That's what society teaches us.
That's exactly right.
So, and with Brandon, my husband, his path was he was working up the corporate ladder. He had gotten a couple of promotions and then switched companies after 2 years for what we call a double promotion.
Right.
And it was at that point we realized that he was just signing up for more hours of work. And we're like, well, that's not what we had in mind because regardless of how many hours you're working, you're getting paid the same.
Right.
And when he, the first company he was with, he was doing his regular assignments and job, but then in addition, he wrote a macro, which is a computer program to help automate things that the employees were doing. And so he wrote this program and then it was distributed globally across one of the world's largest marketing research companies. And so it was a big deal, and we, figure it would save millions of dollars, and he got $1,000 bonus at Christmas time for it. And that was the first time.
That was a wake-up call, wasn't it?
It was.
Wasn't that a wake-up call?
Yeah. And we just kind of realized, what are we doing? If we're putting in, if we're willing to work hard and put in this extra effort, we want to see different results than just what everybody else is doing. Because he got $1,000 more than everybody else that was doing the same thing for doing something that was a big deal. So that was my.
It made the company lots of money.
Oh yeah. So it saved hours and hours that the employees would have been doing. So that was my first big kind of wake up call. And so when he switched companies and then was working more hours for just a slight pay raise, that's when we really started to think about it. So I ended up leaving my corporate job, and that was a hard decision because we had two stable incomes, six-figure income, and no debt, and we were doing we felt good.
Yeah.
But yet we didn't feel satisfied. We weren't reaching our true goals.
Right.
And so we had to make the decision, and so we had the agreement if I left I'd have to come up with something else to make money. So my initial thoughts were to do photography or teach piano lessons. I had 6 piano students at the time, so I thought maybe I'd build that out. And so there was always a little bit of entrepreneurship involved, but I just kept thinking I can't have 100 piano students. The goal is to not have
that's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of 30-minute lessons, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't want to have just a job for the rest of my life. I wanted to start figuring out how to build that passive income and build wealth. And so when I was working part-time at that job, I started listening to real estate podcasts and webinars
Yes.
and stuff. And I, all of a sudden, these lights started going off. I'm like, this is what we've been looking for. And so we started learning more and more. And we decided we needed to buy our first investment, and we thought we'd do a flip because we had bought our first house and fixed it up and sold it, and we got a little bit of a profit, and that was kind of our first taste. But when we moved into the second house, we had our baby who was 3 months old, and we were trying to rehab this property, and we're like, there's something to real estate, but we're not doing it quite right yet.
It's a little different with a 3-month-old,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, so that's so we kind of flipped our own house and then moved into the next one, and they're like, okay, we want an investment property, which was a second separate
Right.
property that we weren't living in. So we thought we'd buy something to flip. So I found something on auction.com and we bought it.
Did you go see it?
Nope. Nope.
Tell us about that experience.
So we figured it was a 20-year-old house, so it wasn't too old. And then from the pictures, it just looked like cosmetic stuff. That would
Was
be
it in another
updated.
state, or was it here?
It's in northern Kentucky.
It was
yeah.
in northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like a 30-minute drive from our house.
So you got to drive by it.
Yeah.
You just didn't get to go in.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And that, you learn. But luckily it worked out for us. It was okay. There wasn't anything major wrong with it. So we did a whole bunch of painting. We put new flooring in, got new appliances in the kitchen, painted the cabinets, and just did cosmetic updates. We did the rehab in about 4 weeks, and we did almost all of the work ourselves.
What do you think you spent on that rehab doing that?
Looking back, I think it was about $15,000.
Okay.
Which it was a total house makeover.
Okay.
But we did all of the work ourselves. And
That does make a difference.
Yes, and we were really stressed about it because at the time Brandon still had his full-time job.
Oh, wow.
So I remember I had a babysitter for Ethan, our son, and Brandon was at his work, and I was at the house trying to pull up nails out of the floor from the carpet, or the staples.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Chip and Joanna Gaines, their book, the
Yes.
audio book,
Yes.
and I remember them talking about flipping houses, and I had music playing. I'm like, I'm living the dream. I was just like in this nasty, stinky house by myself.
I'm living the dream.
trying to chase our dreams, right?
Right.
So that was a big step for us because I remember we had our mortgage payment, and then we had this new payment on this house while we were the carrying costs, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is a big step, having two mortgage payments.
Right.
And it was expensive because it was a high interest loan, because it's hard to qualify for a rehab loan if you don't have any experience.
Right.
My husband had some background in construction, but we had never flipped a house before, so we paid really high interest rate for that deal. And we were stressing and sweating bullets, but we sold it pretty quickly. And while that was under contract, we bought the next one to flip.
Okay.
And so we thought, okay,
you're on your way.
Yeah.
I mean, you're moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So what was your profitability? So what did you pay for that flip?
So we bought it for $117,000.
Okay. And then you put about 15 in it? And so what did you end up selling it for?
$167,000.
Wow. So did you
And it
pay
was a
real estate
Ford.
fees on top of that?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
okay, so but
When
you
we
had some
sold
fees.
it.
So what was your net profitability for that house?
Honestly, I'd have to look back at the
Yeah.
numbers. I don't
Right.
know off the
So you're
top of
thinking
my
probably
head.
about 35 maybe? 30, 35?
Maybe. Because the carrying costs were
Carrying
expensive.
costs too. Yeah, because you're starting out and
I think the payment was about $1,200 a month.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
had it we bought it in July, and then we sold it in November.
Okay.
When it actually
Right,
officially closed.
right.
So,
But still, I mean, how many months do you have to work to make, let's say you made 25,
yeah.
right? And that's a conservative amount. And let's say if you made 25 out of that in profitability, wow, there are people that work all year.
To make that much money.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially in our part of the country, northern Kentucky. So, wow, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
So that was kind of what gave us enough confidence to try and pursue our dreams for real.
Yeah.
So Brandon left his job in August of 2018.
Oh,
And
that's
so that
exciting.
was a big leap of faith for
Yeah.
us. And it really was a commitment of like, okay, we've got to make this work. So we were kind of living off the flip money,
Right.
plus trying to have money to invest in the next one. So we flipped the second house, and that one, the negotiations were a little bit tougher. It was a bigger house, more expensive, and we ended up having a flooding issue right at the end. Like the work was done. It was
This
under
stuff
contract.
happens, you guys. So
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you're being honest, because
Yeah.
I think that that's what this is about. We want to share with people the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we all have those things happen, but the key is just keep moving forward, right? We
Right.
fail forward, right?
Absolutely. Because if we would have quit with that one challenge that came
Right.
up, we never would have gotten to the point of actually holding real estate and having passive
Right.
income. So,
Right.
but that's people watch HGTV and they watch.
It looks
all
so
these
easy
shows.
on those shows.
They have. These before
those
and
girls look
afters
so
and-
cute and they're so put together. I don't look like that when I'm working on houses. Do you? I mean,
Ponytails.
some of them are all. They look like $1 million, and they're tearing out cabinets and they're doing all this work. So it is kind of funny how the TV makes it all look really pretty.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
So there's definitely those challenges, and
Yeah.
so we got through the second flip, we sold it, and then at that point we're like, all right, we got to stop selling these because you get one chunk of money out of them.
Yeah.
But it's just like any other active income. You work for money, and then when you
Right.
stop working, it's gone.
Great way to look at that.
So during that time, we had that flood happen, and we had to pull up the carpet, do foundation repairs and everything, and we were stressed out of our minds.
Sure.
So in order to sustain our income and be able to pay our bills and everything, we had to keep more deals going.
Yeah.
Right? So during that time, I was getting my real estate license.
And that's where we're at today. We're in Northern Kentucky at our Keller Williams office in Northern Kentucky. So that's the exciting part because she's now a realtor here in our office. I love
That's
it.
how we met. Was
Yeah.
I came to your class that you
Yes.
taught about passive income and building
Right,
wealth. So-
right.
So
Exciting.
during that time, while that last flip was selling, we bought a property, and our intent was to keep it as an Airbnb because we've been hearing all of these great things about
Right.
how profitable Airbnb are. Because with holding any kind of property, you have all these benefits of having the appreciation and the mortgage, the principal reduction,
Right.
tax benefits.
Yes.
But with the cash flow, it increases exponentially on short-term rentals.
Absolutely.
So we thought if we're going to hold a property, we want to make it count.
It's got to make it count, right?
Yeah. So we rehabbed that property and got that up and running, and that's been really, really successful. As a long-term rental, we probably would have gotten about $800 a month off of it. And the first month we listed it, we had $3,800 of income, and the mortgage and all of the expenses are about $1,000. So it was about $2,800.
Oh,
in
that
cash
is
flow.
a good one. That's a cash cow. Is
Yeah.
what we call that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, wow.
So now we've been trying to rinse and repeat and
Yeah.
do that. So instead of just flipping, Brandon has been doing some remodeling to kind of just keep the cash flow coming in
Yes.
to pay the bills
Because
and
you
help us
do,
invest.
because you're in a place, because you're so young, and y'all are in a place where you do what others won't to later have what others don't.
Right.
And so that is, and some days it's hard, and that's what I wanted her to share with you because a lot of people, you see these TV shows and they make it look so easy. And what I love about this is that it is a journey, and it is not a sprint; it's a marathon, right?
Absolutely.
And so, because it's a marathon, you have points in the marathon run where you're exhausted and want to quit. And the thing is, you just keep going, and then you cross the line and you go, woo! You're glad you did it. And so keep telling your story because I think this is so important for people to see the journey you're on and how you've arrived.
Yeah. So just bringing up some of the challenges too is if you aren't on W-2 income and you're self-employed, you don't just qualify for regular bank financing.
Right.
So a lot of people see that as a hurdle for not being able to invest in real estate. So we've been taking some classes and trying to learn and just talk to a lot of people. So we figured out some way to do creative finance, and we've gotten into private money lenders as well. And so that makes a big difference because hard money loans at really high interest rates, you can't sustain that.
Yeah.
But it gave us enough
Got you going.
experience and credibility to have something to start with.
So what kind of interest rates are hard money loans? Explain that to people so they can get.
To give you an idea of what we had, there might be better options out there, but we had just quit our jobs and so anyway, the interest rate I think was 14%.
Okay.
While we were carrying, and it
Well,
was
people are paying a
interest
lot
only.
more than that. The average credit card, because some people started on their credit cards.
Yeah.
I mean, and the average credit card right now, interest rate for this past year was like 17.2% is what people are paying on the average for the credit card. So, hey, you had a little discount.
It could have been worse.
It could have been worse. See, I'm always finding the glass is always half full.
Right. Yeah.
But hey, it worked. Because look where you are
Got us
today.
started, right? Yep. So after we finished those two flips, we had some before and after pictures, and we had numbers to show and some credibility, and that's when we were able to start getting private financing.
Yeah.
So, and you can't do it all on your own. That's what we're figuring out. You've got it. And, you had kind of asked about leverage was one of your questions.
Right.
And so when I was talking to Brandon, we thought, leverage is a strategy for growth. It's the ultimate goal is to have everything paid off and just have cash flowing properties and passive income.
Right.
But for us, if we bought our first investment property for $100,000, we still wouldn't have bought that first investment property if we paid cash for it.
Right.
But so by using leverage and having loans on the properties, you're able to grow and build that passive income.
Absolutely. And leverage is the key to a lot of things. I mean, for any business you have to be able to leverage your position, because I know me, when selling real estate, I could sell 100 homes a year by myself. But I was self-employed, right? Because the day that I pulled the last sign, I was out of business. And when I learned leverage and how to have a real estate team out there selling real estate and learning leverage, working through other people, leverage is several different things. Leverage is through other people. It's through money. There's ways to leverage. And when you learn leverage, your life gets big. I mean, it's just like this office runs. I'm not here. I live in Texas, but this wonderful Northern Kentucky Keller Williams office runs because I have wonderful people. One's behind the camera. Hey, Adam, love you, man. I have wonderful people who run this office, right? And so that's when life gets big, and you're seeing it through. For you right now, it's money and leverage, because you'll start using other people, to do your work on your rental properties.
Yeah, and we started doing all the work ourselves, right?
Yeah,
but we've gotten to a point of building out, so we have subcontractors, and Brandon just kind of manages those, and he still does some work himself, but then you can have multiple properties going at one time.
And then you have him overseeing them, which I'm sure he likes that job better, right? I know Rick, my husband, he still oversees our rental portfolio. And but he's not changing out toilets and doing all the stuff that he did for many years, because it was about cash flow for us. And again, you do what you have to do to make it happen. So and that's always going to be the theme through most of this, is that you've got to be willing to do what others won't to get what you want. And I think that sometimes people tend to quit right when it's getting ready to blow. Don't you agree? I mean, right when it's ready to just blow up, and you're getting ready to meet that next step, right, and moving forward. So share some more. So you've done 2 flips now. And now you're buying. You bought your one that you're holding. You're holding.
Yeah.
Are you holding all of them now, or are you still doing some flips?
We've been holding everything that we bought so far.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
So we're trying to kind of diversify, right? So having some flips, holding some. So we have the Airbnb that's going right now, and then we have one that's a year contract, so regular long-term rental, and then one is kind of a midterm. It's a 6-month lease right now. Okay. We're going to Airbnb that in the spring. Okay. So we had some friends that kind of needed an in-between place. And perfect. So it worked out because something we're finding, there's a lot of challenges with real estate, but it also provides you an opportunity to help a lot of people. Because these people were in transition, retired, moving from downsizing to a smaller house, and so they needed somewhere in between. So it worked out that they can stay there, and that kind of lets us get through the winter or the slower months of Airbnb. Slower months, So share. I mean, have you started doing the Airbnb, or are you just getting ready to start? You've got one. Yeah. Okay, so share with everybody how you got that started, what that looks like. Are you managing it yourself? Yes. Okay, so just give them some tips, because a lot of people right now, Airbnb is pretty hot. Yeah. I have 2 Airbnbs, and so, but I don't manage them. I have somebody else manage them. So share with what you've done, because I'm into leverage now. So you share what you've done, because I think that's exciting, because I think it's important for you when you first start this to do what you did. Absolutely. To that point of knowing what you're asking people to do. Not that you have to be, obviously the leverage is finding someone better than you to do that job, right? But like for everything that we've done, like we started the flip, so now Brandon can manage the projects, and he knows what the costs are going to be. Right. And for me with the Airbnb, so we started with our first one, and now we have a couple of others that I manage as well. And so, being able to, having started doing everything, you know what goes into it. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the best way or the right way, but that worked for us. Yeah. So we got that Airbnb going. So we bought it for $14,000. It was awful.
This is how I started. I bought cheap houses like this, and I love that. Congratulations finding one, because people say to me all the time, "Oh, Myra, you were able to do it because you could find cheap houses."
There's still cheap houses.
There's still cheap houses if you go look for them, right? Right, yeah. And you're willing to do the work, because most of the time they come with a lot of work and effort.
Yeah, if you're going to buy them cheap, you're going to have to put money into them.
Yeah.
So, so we bought that for $14,000. It was a bank-owned property. It had a little space heater, fire in the front room. So and it was the brown paneling. So it just looked really bad, right? Dark. So we went in and looked at it, and everything was boarded up. So it's this nasty, dark, dingy house. Yeah. But we went into it trying to have a vision for what it could be. Yeah. And it's really close to downtown Cincinnati, and it's up on a hill. So right around the corner, you've got a view of the city. And So we thought this has potential to be an Airbnb.
Yeah.
That's what we planned the whole time.
Yeah.
So we bought it for $14,000 cash, just ourselves, and then we're gonna have to do a $50,000 rehab. So
Yep.
we got an investor to give us the money for that, just a private money loan.
Yeah.
And so we bought it and did the rehab. It took about 3 months to do the whole thing, and it was like new roof, and then all the drywall came off, all the electric was brand new. Everything was basically
Yeah,
brand
you
new.
did it all. You did. That's really great for 50,000.
Yeah,
I mean, good
we
job.
still did a lot of the work ourselves.
Yeah.
And at that point, we started finding a couple of people that could help us, so we could pay hourly to help, help
Yeah.
with painting and laying.
So you can
flooring
move
and stuff.
faster, start making money, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
the longer it goes out, the longer your cost.
Right.
basis.
Yeah. Yeah, so we finished it up, and we finished it in June, and then we furnished it right away and got it listed on Airbnb. And we had the fear of there's 300 other Airbnbs in this area close by. So what's going to make ours different, or who's going to say we're actually going to rent it out? So we were stressed about it. But we listed it, and that night we started getting bookings. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. We might make it.
Yay!
And at that point, too, I just think doubt and fear has so much control, because you have to
Fear.
overcome it. You just have to.
And that's in everything, right?
Right.
And I mean, probably you would say, I mean, tell me yes or no, but you might not have bought that house if it would have been one of your first ones. Because
we would not have.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because of what you've learned as you've gone.
Absolutely.
Everything. I love, what's her name? Maria Forleo's book. Everything's figure outable.
Yeah.
Because if that book says the truth, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
once you get going, when you're new and you first start, yes, everything seems like, oh my gosh, right? I mean, it's like the sky's falling, right? And then once you get doing it, it's like, okay, so we have foundation problems. Okay, so get it fixed. I mean, everything becomes like, okay, fix it.
Absolutely. And look, to your point, that first flip that we did was just cosmetic, like painting
Right.
and flooring.
That's
And
a
then-
good one to do first, don't you agree?
Yes.
If you first get into it, don't take on this horrendous project because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Unless you have the right people to
Right.
help you.
Exactly.
But we were trying to build out our network still.
Yeah.
And we had come from corporate world that
Right.
didn't have anything to do with real estate.
And you'd moved
so-
here, so you didn't really know people, right?
Right, yeah.
That know people.
And in our experience in the corporate world, a lot of people weren't even buying houses because they couldn't qualify for them because of student debt, or it just made more sense for them to stay with family or whatever it is.
Right.
So we bought our first house the year after we moved out here, and so anyway, we just kind of had a different perspective,
Yeah.
and it can be scary whether it's just buying your first house. Like I said, our first house, we're like, oh, we have a mortgage.
Yeah, yeah.
But then we got the second flip.
I'm
and
grown up now. Oh my gosh, what happened?
and we don't feel
I'm
grown up,
becoming
but-
my mom and dad.
yeah, we're still terrified every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's still it's not like we've overcome the fear. It's,
Right.
It's living with fear and being
Right.
willing to work through those challenges.
Oh, I love that.
So we got the house up for the Airbnb, and it started booking out, and we were booked every single weekend, and then through July and August, pretty much every day was booked. And so we had immediate cash flow of about $2,700 of profit from that, which usually with a long-term rental, you know, people shoot for $200 to $800 a month.
And you're talking $2,700 a month
from the one property. Yep. And this is a 3-bed.
And she paid $14,000 for.
Yeah. And so with the $50,000,
Even with the $50,000,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
now let's say we're at
65.
65, right?
Right. Yeah.
And $2,700.
Right.
Another cash
Absolutely.
cow.
Yeah. So that was motivating to us. And
Yeah.
we thought, well, we can do that again.
Yeah.
And instead of buying 100 properties to get to that same amount,
Right.
we thought, let's do Airbnb. So we wanted to try long term just to have that experience, and so that we would have options, because any of the properties we buy, in case something happens, like if the city decides to ban Airbnb, we want to have something to fall back on.
That's a great point, you guys. Did you hear what she said? Because that is a good point, because sometimes neighborhoods and deed restrictions do not allow short-term rentals. So you need to check that out if you're buying. Make sure that you get a great realtor, especially one from Keller Williams, because they know these things. You would want to make sure that you check that stuff out, because that could totally destroy what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, don't buy something if it's not allowed to Airbnb with that intent.
Right.
For sure. So we did that and got the other rentals up and going, and then we actually had some cool opportunities come up, because everybody has questions about it, and now we've been doing it firsthand. And I guess I'll go back too. So I was doing the cleaning and the managing.
Okay, because I was going to ask you about that. So, because when you're doing Airbnb, you guys, remember that, you know, as they're coming out, you got to have, so it's a little more labor intensive as a management company, managing Airbnb compared to long term.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing the turnover, and I had my license at this point, plus our baby, right? And then we've got the remodeling projects that my husband's doing. I'm trying to get my license up and going and doing real estate sales.
Yeah.
And so we've got like 10 different jobs. And so we got to a point where I was like, all right, I've got to focus in on a couple
It's a lot
things.
of side hustles.
Yes.
Millennials love side hustles. I mean, that's a lot of side hustles you got going, you and your husband.
Right. And we're trying to build up enough income to pay our own bills, plus invest and buy more properties, plus doing a lot of different things. So
you're juggling.
Yeah.
Right now you're in the middle of that juggling phase. I remember that phase when Rick and I, as a policeman and a hairstylist, I'm cutting hair 12, 14 hour days. He's working at law enforcement. And then in our spare time, we're taking care of these rental properties.
Absolutely. And I think to get started, you have to do stupid and crazy things. You're going to lose sleep. You're going to be stressed out of your mind. There's been times where we'll just have little crying sessions.
Yes.
It's so hard. And
I love that you're saying that, because I think sometimes it looks so pretty on TV, doesn't it?
It does.
It really looks pretty.
It's hard.
Joanna makes it look really good.
Yeah.
I just want to be Joanna Gaines because she makes it look so great.
Yeah.
I mean, Ann takes care of 5 kids, right?
Right. Yeah. And in her audiobook that I mentioned I had listened to, they talk about back once people have made it big or they've been successful, they've made it in life. It's really easy to look back and think like it looks easy and they've got it made. But they talk about their experiences too.
Yes.
There were a couple times where they almost went under because it was so tight.
They're so real. I love them.
But they pulled through.
Yeah, they're so real, and because it is not easy. And them being in Waco, Texas, not very far from me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool watching them.
Absolutely.
And what they've done.
Yeah.
But it shows you the sky's the limit, right?
Right.
It's just a matter of getting really purposeful and consistent in your behavior doing this stuff. You've got to continue making it happen. Right?
Yeah, very intentional. So like with the cleaning fees, we're charging $55 for a reservation.
Back to the reservation, right?
Yeah.
So explain a little bit about going on Airbnb and setting up your account and how that all works and how you get paid, because I don't think anybody really talks about that.
Yeah. So it's actually funny you say this because Brandon and I are about to launch an Airbnb course.
I love that.
Literally, it's the A to Z of Airbnb.
So will you come back?
Literally.
We'll come back and talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Great.
Yeah,
So share with them a little bit the basics.
Yeah. So so what we talk about in our course, but just the gist is there's different ways to do it. You don't have to buy real estate in order to do Airbnb. You can have your own house and rent out a room.
Right. Sure.
You can sublease a property. So if you're leasing something, you can Airbnb it. You don't even have to own it. And then you can buy properties, and obviously if you buy them and hold them, you have all these long-term wealth building strategies of the tax benefits and appreciation and principal reduction, all that, plus the cash flow. But with we were trying to come up with the extra money too, the cleaning fee. So you can hire property management, which is going to be 20 to 40%.
Yeah, they charge a lot more, I know, for Airbnb than they do for regular property management. The regular property management is usually 10%. I know people can get it for 8 to 10% for regular long term, but Airbnb is 15 to 20, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depending on who you go with and how many you have. I think I can get 15 for more units, but
yeah. So since we were managing it ourselves, we didn't have to pay that fee, and I was doing the cleaning fee, so it's $50 a cleaning. So for every reservation, that adds up to more money. Yeah. And that was what we needed. But a couple months ago, I was to the point where I'm like, all right, we got to just hire someone because the property's paying for that cleaning fee as part of the reservation. So let's just find somebody that can do it for that amount.
Right.
So we found somebody that's been really good and reliable, and I haven't had to worry about running out to that property in between everything else that's going on. And that was one of the best decisions and best moves for leverage that we have made. It's taken a huge weight off my shoulders. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal to clean, but it's a really important part, and it's absolutely necessary. So finding the right people for the right jobs, and it's also an opportunity for someone else to make money, right?
You're exactly right.
And if it, when I was doing it, it took me about 30 minutes to do the turnover. So if $55 for 30 minutes of work is not a bad hourly rate.
You're exactly right. And it's really cool helping somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't hire a cleaning person, guess who you are? The cleaning person. Same thing about plumber, same thing about, So if it's important that you find those people, because you're moving here, right? And in order to be 30,000 feet up, you got to get all this figured out down here as you're going up through to get to the 30,000 feet where you just oversee everything.
Right. Yeah, just automating and
It's
making it all passive.
automating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having goals of what you want to do once you are freed up, right?
Yeah.
I think that people that are really committed to doing good things aren't just gonna have passive income and then sit back and just relax. They're gonna go do things and go back and teach other people, right? And that's exactly what you're doing.
And I love what you say, because people ask me all the time, why are you still, and I go, I get more out of watching you and watching other people come up through the ranks and doing it. And because it just proves that there's a success pattern. And if I can share all of my failures and all the things that I messed up on and didn't know what I was doing, and if I can share it and help somebody avoid that and move forward faster,
right.
Oh my goodness. I went to John Maxwell is one of my favorite people, and so I go to a thing he has every year called Exchange. And a few years back, and what made me do Money Difference and made me move forward on this business is the fact that I was sitting there, and John Maxwell said something that really touched me. And he said, success is great, but significance is where it's at. And I will tell you, Heather, that the whole room stopped that day for me. And it totally changed the way I look at things. All of us have a hard time finding, what's your big why? Why are you doing this, right? And I don't have any children. And so because I don't have any children, it's been harder for me to figure out what is my why and why am I doing this. And now I know what my purpose is. I know what my why is, and it's to make a difference in other people's lives. And that is huge. And when you get that, when you figure that you can help all these people and help them get what they want, because the rat race, our world has become so, everybody is working themselves to death. Right? And they're working all day long, and they're coming home and giving the people they love the most the worst of themselves, not the best. They take the best to the office and come home tired and anxiety ridden because they're working so much. And so it's so important that we show people there is a better way. And if you can work really hard in your 20s, 30s to have the freedom at a later date to be able to go and do and have and share, oh my gosh, that's when life really is big. And so I think it's so important that we share with everybody how, you can have this life, this really great life, and a life worth living through there's just some strategies of building a passive income. So you no longer work for money. Instead, your money works for you. And that is called freedom. I mean, that is that's true freedom, right? And you're seeing it. And so I love what you're seeing, because your money no longer controls you. You're in control of your money. And that's when life gets big, right? And life worth living. So tell me, what is your goal? So where do you want to be in 5 years?
That's a great question. I just think I look back to the last year and think about how much has happened. A year ago, we were trying to sell, I think we were trying to sell our first flip still. Besides the house that we lived in, right? But so since then, we sold 2 properties and have kept 3, and then we have 2 other under contract. One that's going to be a flip, and one that we haven't decided what we're going to do with. It might be an Airbnb. And then we have a couple of other properties that we're managing the Airbnb of, right? And helping other people out. So one of these situations is the property owners, they have to relocate for work, and they don't want to sell the house. It's a gorgeous house, and you never know what's going to be down the road for them. So we're just going to manage the Airbnb for them. So we'll have income from managing it and have other opportunities because of that. And it helps them be able to not just bleed out on the property. So having opportunities to help people has always been our motivation through the whole, even though we're struggling and it's been really hard over this last year, just trying to keep your vision up for ways that you can help people. And so like with Brandon with the construction job, one of our really good friends that we know from church, he's 16 or 17, and he's been learning all these handyman skills.
Cool.
And spending
That's
time.
when you need to learn it, right? When you're young.
And Brandon loves that time with him because he can just bond with him. And there's no pressure or anyway, it's just a good opportunity for, I think, Brandon to kind of be a good example of someone that's willing to work hard, that's a good, honest guy, that's a family man, that has these really
and you're
great
teaching
qualities.
him a trade.
I
mean, not everybody wants to go to college. A lot of people know I did not go to college. I'm a Kentucky high school graduate, and it's okay because there are trades out there that people were making lots of money in trades, and we're not teaching trades anymore in our high schools.
Absolutely.
It kills me that we're not doing that, because there are great trades out there, whether it's woodworking, cabinet making, hairstyling. I mean, there's so many great trades, mechanics. My dad taught shop. He was a teacher and he taught shop. And it's just so important. And I think for him, what a great mentor your husband is, Brandon is for him. And I get more joy out of being a mentor for somebody and helping them work their way through. I watch people, and you watch them become so successful, and there's nothing better than that. There really isn't. So that's fantastic. Good for him.
Yeah.
And you become better. You know, whenever you're teaching somebody, that's when you become better at what you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
We say that all the time in real estate. Go teach some classes, and you'll learn how to have the best listing presentation.
Yeah.
Go teach that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So being able to help some people, we want to help a lot of people in different ways throughout our life, right? And I think if you have the ability to have time and resources, you can do a lot of good. So that's kind of one of the big picture things for us. But like I mentioned before, Brandon was going to work 8 hours a week, and if he kept working up the corporate ladder, it was going to be more stress, and it really wasn't that big of a pay difference to make it worth it. And so some of the goals that we had was to have some kind of a career that does not have an income ceiling. And if you're willing to work in and put more effort in, that it will make a difference. And you know, so that for us, he's been working just as hard or harder over the last year.
And
but
you will as self-employed. You know, whenever you're
yeah.
self-employed and you're building a business, you don't even really count the hours. Isn't it funny? Because when you go to a job, JLB, you pay attention to how many hours you work. But it's really interesting when it's your own business and you are working for your family to better your situation.
Right.
And especially when you're going towards financial freedom. I mean, you now have a goal where you're going, so you don't even pay attention to the hours you're working.
Right. It starts to get heavy when it's 2 o'clock in the
morning.
But,
It does.
But yeah, you're in it. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's not just in vain or feels like you're just punching a clock.
Right.
You know. So just for us to be able, by the time we're 30, which will be in about 2 years from now, hopefully we'll have enough passive income to pay all of the bills, plus have the money that we want to do some fun things too. You know.
And I mean, let's talk about that, because most people sacrifice 30 to 40 years of their lives to have that, what you're just talking about. You're looking for your freedom number, and that freedom number is when you realize we've arrived to financial freedom. And I mean, to be that young, because I will tell you, a lot of people don't even get started and they have so much debt. They're just ridden with debt. And debt is really what is killing our society. I mean, and we don't like delayed gratification. So, like, I love that y'all drove one car. I mean, you started that at a young age, and I did too. So, I started at a young age too. And, you know, you got by. You're fine.
No, we were fine. And it was great because you talked about the traffic.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there. We're a married couple. We sit in the car together for 2 hours driving.
Yeah.
And it was good
you
time
get to spend
talk.
time together.
Yeah.
You know, you're not, because usually you're leaving to go to work and you're away from each other. And so that time, it's like tick tock of time you're away from your family, right? But when you're together, you're together. And that's Rick. He travels with me now. And so we have so much fun. And Izzy, my chihuahua, she travels too with us. So it's so different because they're with me. When I was working before, they weren't with me. And it was, you know, I hated my time away from them. So I know what you're saying. So 5 years down the road, here we sit. It's 5 years. So tell me where you're at. What's your goal?
Yeah, and I say, I really don't know. I think that when we're working hard and we have good intentions and good goals, you have no idea what your potential is. And so I think, you know, I said what we've done in the last year has been so hard, but we've come so far. And so I think 4 more years of that, if we keep working like that, I mean, I hope that we'll have a portfolio of investment properties that we can own. And, you know, we want to have our house completely paid off. And I picture, you know, hopefully we have a lot of money saved away and invested in places, but we always want to live humbly and frugally. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a big house with garage space if you need space for the tools and to have fun with your family and things, but just always being focused on our little family unit. And the money sign, I don't know what that will look like, but financial freedom is what I want.
Yeah. And tell people what that means to you. Financial freedom is, if I came to you and I said, I don't understand, what is financial freedom? What is it to you? Because it's different to everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love what you just said, because some people, they want a big house and they want fancy cars, but they're not willing to do the work to get it, because you can have that. Absolutely. Go build a portfolio that gives you off enough money to have whatever you want. But not everybody feels that way. Some people are like, I mean, I'm the same way. I could live in a tiny house and I would be perfectly happy.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I'm trying to talk Rick into it, but he's not excited about that.
It's a good thing you got a little dog, right?
He needs garage. Yeah, it's a good thing I've got a little dog. He needs garage space. And so, tell about that. Financial freedom. What does it mean to you?
Well, it's a really good question. I think for me, just from where we came, is that we had to work every day for a paycheck to pay our bills. And if we didn't go to work, we would either get fired and not have income, and it would get us in trouble, and then just more stress comes with that. So to me, financial freedom is having enough money and passive income to pay all of your needs and then some of your wants. Because we don't want to just be super stingy and tight and stressed forever. Like, we want to be able to do fun things and travel, and we want to have like quads or dirt bikes to be able to go and make memories as a family. So having the financial ability to pay for the things that we need and some of our wants, and then also having the time. I think a lot of times people trade off. You make a lot of money, but you have no time with your family.
You're exactly right. You don't even have time to spend the money.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So we've seen some of the people that we respect and admire that are in that trap, and they're stuck and they don't know how to get out. So for us, being able to, if we want to go on a trip to Florida and go, or go somewhere and go scuba diving.
I have an Airbnb in Florida. If you
come and stay there,
you need a place.
We love. Brandon and I are scuba certified, so being able to just go on a trip somewhere and be able to have it paid for, and to be able to have the time and not have a boss to report to or get fired by. Just being able to do what you want when you want to, and then choosing to do something good with that.
I love that, because you're only young for so long, right? And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. I just had a good friend get diagnosed with cancer in the last week, and it made me really, you reevaluate, when this kind of stuff happens, because they're in their 50s, and you just go, oh my goodness, because they just now got to their freedom place, right?
Yeah.
And now what's their life going to look like? And so that's why you got to enjoy every single day. And you get to create the life you want. And I think we get so caught up in a job and success, right? And we get caught up in the next level of success and the next level of success when we're in jobs, that we tend to not spend the time with the people we really care about. I read a great book, and it's the 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I'm going to tell you, none of them was about making more money. It was more about spending time with the people you love, because we tend to not do that. And so that book, and then, like I said, my friend, it's really made me go, it's time. And every day when I make my decisions, I'm always like, does this give me joy? People think happiness comes from buying more things, or having the fancy shoes, or big house, or just whatever, new car, but it really doesn't. Happiness comes from within, and you've got to figure that out. So I love what you're doing. So are any more children in the picture?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
We talk about kids too, and it's hard because there's never a convenient time to have kids.
No. I remember I was working so much that I didn't have any. So you're right. There's never a convenient time. So you just have to do it.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a second one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I love that.
I go from there.
Well, I love what you're doing, and I am so proud of you. And I just, when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that you see this the way I saw this, because young people don't really see it, right? Because unfortunately, it does look cool. In my generation, we kept up with the Joneses. This generation keeps up with the Kardashians, and they live pretty large. And so because of that, you tend to get caught up in consumerism. And you get to see people get caught up in consumerism, and it makes me really sad, because you're spending your future every day. Whatever you're doing, if you're not saving your money or buying assets, like you, I just would take my money, I'd save it, and I'd buy another asset. And there's other things for passive income that I want to share with you and help you with that too, because, there's 3 great ways to build wealth. Real estate, which was my number one. And then I also built through stocks and investments and high dividends. And so that's another one. And then owning businesses. And so, the cool thing is that now you're in real estate because that was your passion.
Yeah.
And the great thing about getting your license, and that's why I got my license, the same as you. I'd already built my income stream, and I was 35 or 6 when I got my real estate license. And I got it so I would be more knowledgeable.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, because it does make you very knowledgeable. And we find out the great deals first.
Yeah.
So, and so that helps you to just further what you're doing, and you get to help other people.
Right.
And I love that y'all are writing a course. So we're going to have some more information on that,
Yeah.
and feature you on our site.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to share with our viewers? Just any tips or strategies or encouragement?
Yeah. Well, you're gonna need a lot of encouragement.
Yeah.
It's a bumpy, hard road, but it's worth it. And I mean, we haven't made it yet, right? We still are working.
Oh, you are
really,
well on your
really
way,
hard.
though. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you because you feel like you haven't made it yet, right?
Yeah.
But I promise you, you have made the necessary steps to get this thing rolling,
Yeah.
and the hard part is over.
I hope so.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. I promise. Remember, I'm hindsight.
Yes.
You've come over you've come up the hill, and I promise you, in the next year, you're going to see the rewards from all your effort.
Yeah.
You just wait.
Sure hope so.
Yeah, you will.
And to that point, I would just say, like people talk about a train rolling. Like getting a train rolling is so hard. But once it's going, you kind of got momentum, and then it can kind of just be self-generating. So I would just say, like, there will be some really dark, hard moments, but you have to be committed. You have to decide how committed and what you want.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want it, there's going to be all types of excuses that you can make and challenges that will come up. But everybody's going to have challenges. They're going to be different for everybody. So being committed to making it through it and keeping your goals in mind, and then having a support group, whether it's a spouse or your mom or your friend or whoever it is, you're going to need help and support to kind of just keep you focused and get you through it. And then I just say learn like crazy. One thing I do want to say is people think that you have to learn and then earn, but in real estate and investing, you can learn while you earn.
Yeah.
And that's what I love.
Isn't that the greatest thing? And you know what else I love about real estate is I love the fact that nobody tells you what you're worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the sky's the limit. And
Absolutely.
I love that about real estate because people tend to, with college degrees and to tell people, well, the teacher's worth this. The policemen have this amount of salary usually. Firemen. The wonderful thing about real estate is that you get to decide. I mean, we have people making over $1 million a year in this office. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, that is exciting. So you are the only person that can limit yourself. So that's what I love about it too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being
thanks,
here.
Myra.
You are awesome, and I look forward to being on this journey with you, and I look forward to helping you along the way because I love what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for being with us for another episode of Money Difference. And remember, you can make a difference with your money. You're awesome.